to Diddy and
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Cassie just name-dropped Britney Spears in the Diddy trial as she was on the stand.
Could link music mogul Diddy to pop icon Britney Spears. An unexpected connection between the two appends the trial when it is disclosed in court. Their links were demonstrated by the mysterious freaks, which made the mood in the room unbearable. There was a celebration for offs. Why was Diddy acting so aggressively? And what was he hiding?
Absolutely. All of those girls. All of those Mickey Mouse girls, including Christina Aguilera. All of these children have been big. Part of the reason why they can't tell you is because they were thugged.
Yep.
Most of what was happening to them was happening. And what they have left are the memories and the nightmares.
You believe that Bieber has been trying to expose Diddy for years, because if you look at his Yummy video, there's a lot of indicators that he was trying to expose what these elites are really doing to children. He used pizza images a lot.
Him, Rihanna, all of them. Listen to their music after they get their big hit record and their deal. That Lou Taylor is friends with Diddy. They're all listed on the charter of that same church.
Over here. Y'all can bring the 500 cameras over here. Y'all can bring it to George Clooney or Tom Cruise or Will Smith.
You saying give Britney a break?
Give Britney or any woman or children. You're supposed to have rules to the game. There's supposed to be, there gotta be rules to the game. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
And don't put nobody in danger driving. You know? I think that right now everybody's treating everybody in the world like they can't make a mistake, that they have to be this perfect thing. Whether it's Barack Obama, Reverend Wright, whether it's Miley Cyrus or Britney Spears. Everybody has to be perfect, and life ain't like that.
Cassie just name-dropped Britney Spears in the Diddy trial as she was on the stand testifying. She said Sean was there and he brought Dallas Austin, Britney Spears. I think those were the two that stand out to me. Now, what she is talking about is her 21st birthday party that took place on September 8th, 2007. The picture is right above. You see Britney with Diddy, Paris Hilton, and then there's Dallas Austin next to her.
It's gonna blow your mind. This is the evolution of Britney Spears from 2000 to 2024. And look what happened in 2003. Who's this guy? Anyone recognize him? And also pay attention to what happens in 2007.
Right now, P. Diddy is looking at spending the rest of his life in prison for human trafficking and also assault towards Cassie Ventura, who was his ex-girlfriend. Cassie Ventura has explained that one way P. Diddy would always try to manipulate her was trying and getting other celebrities to come to parties, with one example being Britney Spears, who came to Cassie's 21st birthday party. That birthday party was actually the night before the 2007 VMAs, where Britney Spears had one of the worst performances of her career, and many called it the beginning of the end. And after that happened, Britney Spears actually came out apologizing for the performance, saying she was extremely tired, having no sleep the night before, and did admit to being hungover. Now it's been insinuated that story actually goes much deeper, where P. Diddy might have tried to set Britney Spears up that night, getting her drunk on purpose and keeping her up to try and get her to have a bad performance. From the point of view that P. Diddy had this idea that if Britney Spears' career tanked and she was losing popularity, she would be more reluctant to sign with his record label instead. From Cassie Ventura's point of view, she said that Britney Spears was just a pawn to P. Diddy to try and get her at that birthday party for Cassie, so she'd be so impressed she would date P. Diddy. It actually worked because that was the first night ever Cassie Ventura did kiss P. Diddy. For Britney Spears, it's not likely she was ever seriously abused by P. Diddy, but it definitely...
The Freaks Off party has been a hot topic of debate for years. Can you tell me what it is? A sort of urban legend, this elusive event was rarely talked about in public, but was rumored by Hollywood insiders at after-parties. There were claims that the Freaks Off party was a high-profile, covert gathering with a carefully selected guest list. According to reports, the invitation was so exclusive that even powerful Hollywood people discussed it in whispers, as if it were a secret. Continuous changes to the purported location added to you wouldn't exactly anticipate sparkle and elegance to accompany the events that were allegedly taking place within the party and its mystique. The information available about these events was largely speculative. They never actually gained any notoriety, instead thriving on gossip websites and anonymous insider charges. But this trial changed everything. According to testimony shown in court, these gatherings are crucial to power struggles, alliances, and conflicts among the A-list celebrity community. Reports indicate that these events were not merely social events and conspicuous displays of wealth, but also served as platforms for actions that could endanger careers and reputations if discovered. Although the specifics of what transpired were never properly named, Sean Diddy Combs was a recurring figure in the tales. Let's just say that the mystery was sufficient to maintain public and journalistic attention over the years. Diddy has long been accused of organizing and taking part in such activities by utilizing his undeniable attractiveness and influence in the it is becoming too realistic due to the entertainment industry. Diddy has the social connections and connections to make these events private. Although there was a lot of speculation about his role, it wasn't confirmed until the evidence started to accumulate in this specific trial. The prosecution claims that he was a major contributor to the start of the events. It appeared as though this finding could not get much more important when Britney Spears made her appearance. Indeed, Britney, who had previously represented innocence, was now being her name alone stirred the crowd and only served to heighten the seriousness of the judicial proceedings, which were interwoven in ways that no one could have predicted. Not just the general public became agitated. This trial seems to demonstrate how readily and swiftly well-crafted celebrity narratives can be exposed, according to legal experts. Due to this trial, the Freaks Off party has been the subject of damaging accusations after previously being written off as a rumor that will always be written off as tabloid fiction. What? The role that Britney plays in all of this is a different story. Unfortunately, the mystery itself is what keeps people curious. The charges in court were far more serious than anything ever discussed behind closed doors, and the guests were shocked by what was revealed. How does Britney Spears, however, fit into this hazy world? Was she really involved? Or is there more to the story than what is currently being said?
That's how she looks now, as of a month ago, so stay tuned. But here, the famous meltdown 2027, I also found her reportedly going to Diddy parties in 2007. And then the whole situation. Coincidence? I don't know. You be the judge. Either way, she's looking pretty good afterwards, as if, she survived Diddy. I have nothing bad to say about Britney Spears. I hope everything's going well for her. I hope she continues to be successful. But at some point soon, it does look like she starts to become a slightly different person. But I'll let you guys be the judge. What do you think? Is it the same person from here to here? And moving forward? Do we have a different Britney? Has she just aged? Is it none of my business? Is it none of all of our business? Either way, stick around because in 2024, she has made an appearance about a month ago, and you're about to see what that is. I'm gonna get out the way. Here you are.
I forget I'm famous sometimes.
2024.
I'm kind of old and rough, but that was kind of cool. The Sabrina girl, Carpenter, she said something in my show, and I was like, that looks cool. She better be cool. Maybe not.
According to a bombshell report by Shutterscoop, Diddy's been bragging for years about hooking up with Britney that very night. A longtime associate claims Diddy told this story dozens of times, laughing about how Britney was crazy in bed and out of control. He thought it made him look like a player, another notch on his belt. Photos from that night show Britney and Diddy cozying up together. Her eyes are hidden behind sunglasses indoors at night. Just to keep that in mind. Now, she was looking like she could barely hold herself together. In 2007, Britney was 25, a global superstar, but her life was unraveling. She lost custody of her 2 young sons, was battling addiction, and was trapped in a toxic conservatorship that controlled her every move. The media was ruthless, painting her as
asking how one of the greatest pop singers of all time relates to such a murky world was one of the many questions that dominated the courtroom as the prosecution presented new evidence that connected Britney Spears to the infamous Freaks Off party. It was when the judge allowed her name to be spoken that everything in the room changed. A trial already rife with defamatory accusations was made even more intense by this finding. The gallery was filled with gasps that caught even experienced reporters off guard. Everyone's attention was on Diddy, who sat still, incomprehensible remark as the prosecution was making their case. Texts from an encrypted platform that was allegedly used to organize these elite parties were found to be the proof. Using text messages and email exchanges, Prosecutors painstakingly assembled a timeline in the courtroom that appeared to show Britney being invited to and attending at least 2 of these VIP events. One very incriminating message said that a white-hot headliner would be making an unannounced appearance. Particularly, one more message made Britney the honoree, a declaration that immediately caused a stir in the courtroom. These old emails were from a period of Britney's life when her conservatorship was the focus of a lot of public and legal attention. The most convincing part was probably when a witness came forward to attest to the message's authenticity. An ex-assistant of one of the alleged party planners saw Britney's name in the logs and claimed to have seen her at one of these gatherings. According to the witness, Britney's motivation came from arriving in a private vehicle, being quickly led inside, and spending the majority of the evening away from other patrons. Nonetheless, the judge was intrigued by her seeming privacy and the fact that she attended these notorious events. The prosecution was not the only one. At one of these events, a blonde woman who remarkably resembled Britney stood in the backdrop of a dimly lit room in a photo that was allegedly shot and later used as evidence. Despite the graininess of the image, the legal team is concerned about it. The witness also made it apparent that they were who they said they were. The chronology made things even more difficult. These alleged appearances coincided with Britney's most powerful years under conservatorship, raising the question of whether she willingly participated or if she was coerced into it. In the trial, Britney's name became undeniable due to the mounting evidence. For years, she had painstakingly constructed her reputation as a pop sensation or a victim of systemic legal and personal manipulation. Now, her name was reverberating in a courtroom, linked to accusations that would once more change public opinion. Was she involved, or was just another instance of her life being exploited? Whatever the response, there was one thing for sure. For Diddy, the backlash was only getting started, and her affiliation with the Freaks Offs party now defined one of the most startling moments of the trial. What was his response when the evidence came to light in real time?
Next, Diddy, 50 Cent, Paris. Another one from that night, Britney with Diddy, Cassie. Why is this important? Well, September 8th, 2007 was the night before the MTV Video Music Awards, the 2007 MTV Video Music Awards, where Britney Spears performed her now infamous performance of Gimme More. Now, also why it's important, because Lou Taylor and Robin Greenhill from TriStar Sports and Entertainment allegedly were the ones that orchestrated Britney's conservatorship to begin with, and they have been named in this Diddy lawsuit multiple times. It's a little bit jarring because the Britney fandom has always had questions about that night. These pictures are not new. We've seen these pictures for a long time. But we've always had questions on what went on that night because Britney just didn't seem okay the next day.
It's September 7th, 2007, and Las Vegas is buzzing. The strip's alive with neon lights, thumping music, and A-list celebs are bouncing from club to club. Britney Spears, the pop princess herself, is at Pure Nightclub for Cassie Ventura's 21st birthday bash, hosted by none other than Sean Diddy Combs. Paris Hilton's there, music producer Dallas Austin is in the mix, and the VIP section's a chaotic swirl of champagne, flashing cameras, and a lot of narcissistic egos. Anyway, Britney's already under a microscope, fresh off her divorce from Kevin Federline. That head-shaping moment, you guys remember that back then? And the relentless paparazzi stalking her every move. She's trying to claw her way back with a new single, Gimme More. Now, that was set to debut at the MTV VMAs in 2 ways. But that night, tonight, she's partying, and the world was not watching.
Diddy was the center of attention as Britney Spears' name was called in court. He sat at the defense table, his jaw noticeably tensed but his body still. His calmness had been remarkable until that point. He appeared confident despite the increasingly serious tone of the trial, crossing his arms and occasionally speaking to his legal team. When the prosecution began to describe Britney's alleged involvement in the Freaks Off party, however, his expression changed. His hands were clasped on the table as he leaned forward slightly, his gaze fixed on the screen that showed the messages and proof. The flicker of agony was subtle yet quite obvious. With the exception of the muted gasps of reporters and witnesses and the sound of papers rustling, the courtroom was hushed as the allegations continued. A witness statement, a key piece of evidence that identified Britney as a key player at one party, was presented by the prosecution after a series of text messages linked her to invitations to the parties. Diddy began to become agitated at this point. He couldn't stand or shout, but his gaze darted frantically to his lawyers. Unable to ignore, he appeared to mouth something at one point, but it was not apparent what he said. He let out a quick, strained breath as if he was having trouble maintaining his cool. When an alleged photo of Britney at one of the gatherings was shown, the atmosphere in the courtroom only became more heated. It was then that Diddy publicly displayed his first outburst. Suddenly, he leaned back in his chair, crossing his table, arms across his chest, and turned his head slightly to stare at the gallery where the spectators were situated. Although he didn't speak out, his body language was clear. His foot drummed against the ground uncomfortably, and he seemed to shake his head briefly in wonder or annoyance. It was a rare, unforeseen incident in a meticulously organized trial. From both sides, the people in the room weren't the only ones who responded. Pundits and legal experts immediately seized upon Diddy's seeming unease, framing it as a potential turning point. Some argued it was the reaction of someone caught off guard by false accusations, while others speculated it was an admission of guilt. Either way, the event was not overlooked. Media outlets evaluated and splashed headlines within hours. If this was the first time his confident exterior had crumbled, his lawyers quickly responded, claiming that Diddy's rebuttal was not an admission of wrongdoing but rather an outburst of frustration at the court's acceptance of questionable evidence, obviously anticipating the repercussions. In an outrageous statement to reporters during a break, his legal counsel member described the Britney revelations as a desperate attempt to implicate unrelated individuals. Their efforts to regain narrative control, however, simply contributed to the growth of speculation. Everyone was more surprised by Diddy's actions following the break, though. Based on his body language, he sat down again, rigid and solemn, barely noticing his surroundings as the trial continued. Whether it was guilt, astonishment, or annoyance, something had clearly changed. Above all, what role did Britney truly play in the hazy circumstances surrounding these charges? Or was this a man's unexpected reaction?
After party at the Hard Rock Hotel, and the night it stretched into the early hours of the morning. Insiders say that Britney was glass-eyed, disoriented, clinging to Diddy in a way that raised everyone's eyebrows. Now fast forward to September 9th, 2007. Britney takes the stage at the VMAs to perform Gimme More. It's supposed to be her big comeback, the moment she proves she's still got it. Instead, it's a train wreck. She stumbles through the choreography, lip syncs off beat, and looks like she's somewhere else entirely. Critics rip her apart, calling it the lowest point of her career. Fans, well, they're left heartbroken. Britney later admits in her 2023 memoir, The Woman in Me, that she hadn't slept that night before, had a panic attack backstage, and felt forced to perform despite begging to back out. She wrote, "I knew it was going to be bad. I was a mess." But what she didn't say, and what's now coming to light, Cassie Ventura, his then girlfriend, was a rising R&B star, signed to his label. That Vegas night was her 21st birthday, and Diddy pulled out all the stops, inviting heavyweights like Britney to flex his clout. But here's the problem. Diddy's not looking so untouchable anymore. In September of 2024, as we know, he was arrested on federal charges of sex trafficking, racketeering, transportation for prostitution. He's been in a Brooklyn detention center ever since, pleading not guilty, of course. But the evidence is piling up, okay? We've been covering the case. Cassie's 2023 lawsuit against him, settled out of court for $20 million, accused him of rape, physical abuse, and forcing her into drug-fueled freak-offs, which we know was with all these male escorts from around the country, and she's getting it on while he watches. Her testimony in Diddy's ongoing trial, which, like I said, we've been covering.
Prosecutors presented their evidence, it was still unclear what would lead Britney Spears to these infamous events and how her role fit into the hazy freaks-offs party scene. It became challenging to discern between rumors and controversy due to the charges made regarding Britney's involvement. Britney was more than just a name on the guest list, based on the evidence presented, intentionally included in these events, under circumstances that raised more questions than answers. Note: testimonies revealed a timeline that began during Britney's most tumultuous years, when her conservatorship battle was at its height and it seemed like every part of her life was being micromanaged. A witness claimed to have seen Britney at a strange party in the early 2010s. With a withdrawn appearance, she was escorted inside a black SUV. The witness claimed that Britney's demeanor didn't seem right considering the outrageousness of these events and the famous people involved. She raised a distinct inquiry. It was unclear whether Britney was actively involved or if those in charge of her life at the time planned her appearance. This was further complicated by text messages and email chains that were later used as evidence, some of which described Britney as the star of a guest list made up of entertainment industry elites. It was unclear how much of it was forced and how much was voluntary, but prosecutors argued that these contacts showed Britney was deliberately invited as the main draw for these gatherings. A specific email from 2012 clarified she claimed that, despite her reluctance to travel, a number of significant others made arrangements to ensure her attendance. In addition to complicating the trial, this notion of coercion brought attention to her existence under guardianship. Britney's well-preserved public image at the time was contradicted by the allegations. She was an iconic figure in pop music, who was battling for her freedom despite being repressed by an overbearing conservatorship, as her fans knew her. A distinct picture was painted by the new accusations, which implied potential involvement in secret meetings with questionable motives. Yet her fans have not wasted any time in speculating that this connection would have been another victim of exploitation if it were true. The grim possibility that those in charge of her affairs would have deceived her into attending such notorious gatherings was unavoidable. The courtroom's most shocking moment came when prosecutors displayed a second, close-up picture of a woman who resembled Britney, staying away from the masses by remaining near a peaceful area. Even though the image wasn't definitive, its presence conveyed shockwaves that spread across the gallery, and the public's social media exploded as fans talked about the charges. Others expressed their anger, while others questioned whether Britney had unintentionally become involved in something wholly out of her control. Despite the claims, nothing real has been established about Britney's involvement. The revealed layers of mystery that sparked inquiries. The defense is expected to directly address the following questions as the trial progresses. Was she present, voluntarily or under duress?
And Dallas Austin, her ex-boyfriend, to her Vegas birthday party, and that the beginning of the relationship was kind of marked publicly with a kiss. Photos from Getty Images confirm Britney was there, posing with Diddy, Cassie, and Austin at Jet nightclub, another spot they hit that night. Now, I'm not sure of the mechanics of how her relationship worked, but Cassie was with Dallas Austin first. He was her producer. Then Diddy met Cassie and signed her, and that's when he made the move to take her away from Dallas Austin. So I don't know if Cassie was still with Dallas at that time, and this is when Diddy made his move, or would Dallas come to her party after Diddy has like snatched her away? I don't know how it works, but it's all crazy. But understand, this was the very beginning of Cassie and Diddy's relationship, or close to it, and this is also allegedly the violence began. Witnesses like Cassie's makeup artist, Mila Morales, who testified, and Diddy's former assistant, George Kaplan, okay? They both testified about seeing Cassie with bruises and injuries allegedly from Diddy's violence. Kaplan even quit working for Diddy because he felt shook by the rapper's actions towards the women in his life. Not only Not only seeing just like small things with Cassie, but another woman named Gina. And this also includes the 2015.
Whether the defense had a strong case for Britney's alleged involvement in the Freaks Off party was the question that loomed large over Diddy's legal team as they stood up to the shocking allegations. It was now the defense's chance to deny the prosecution's claims, which had up until now mostly centered on exposing scandalous facts. By the time they got there, they had a clear position. They claimed that a combination of circumstantial evidence, from unreliable witnesses and public interest in Britney's personal problems, served as the basis for their relationship. As a desperate attempt to garner attention, the defense brought up the charges right away. They said that Britney Spears' association with these episodes was not only a distraction, but also an attempt to add sensationalism to the trial. During a contentious reply, one defense attorney claimed that the evidence was at best poor, stopping to point out what they called the prosecution's narrative's lack of depth. As soon as the witnesses claimed to have seen Britney at these gatherings, the defense questioned their credibility by pointing out inconsistencies in their statements. One crucial witness in a single case, the defense stressed that they had altered their story on multiple occasions, casting doubt on their veracity. A forensic technology expert was called in by the defense to question the authenticity of the emails and messages that had served as the foundation for the prosecution's case, speculating that they may have been altered or misinterpreted. It was to verify Britney's direct participation in the conversations or even to confirm the timestamps without full server access, the expert contended. The expert stated that what we have here are fragments, mentioned fragments that don't add up to a whole picture. Observers were sufficiently troubled by this technological glitch to wonder if the evidence was being misrepresented or misinterpreted. The moment the defense produced the alleged photo of Britney at one of these events was particularly potent. According to their in-house expert, the photograph was very unreliable due to its graininess. Using examples of perceptual errors in similar photographs, the expert said that it may be mistaken for the same image. By the end of this, even several exhibition visitors were apprehensive about the photo's potential as evidence, even if they did not share the defense's position. Many believed that they relied too heavily on raising doubts about everything without providing compelling evidence to support their denial of the Britney connection. The public's reaction was conflicting. Others were certain that the connection had been disproved, while others accused the defense of avoiding the allegations altogether. Those who watched the trial compared it to other well-known cases where attorneys employed comparable tactics of suppressing ambiguity to shape media and judicial narratives, sometimes with greater success than others. A pivotal point occurred when the prosecution disputed an expert's claim on the emails, reminding the court that the communications chain of custody had been verified by other sources. Despite their strong approach, raised questions about a number of the defense's arguments. Whether the defense's rebuttal was persuasive or not was still a matter of debate in the courtroom and among the public. The allegations have been denied by Diddy's team, however. The question continued. Did Britney Spears play a significant enough role in this incident? One thing, though, was definite. Diddy was no longer the only subject of this trial. His and Britney's prospects were in a risky position. Sean Diddy Combs' trial is becoming more than just a legal matter. It emphasizes how crucial influence and secrecy are to celebrity culture's success. Hard questions about accountability and the abuse of power in Hollywood were brought up by the accusations against Britney Spears and the Freak Offs party. Was Britney influenced when she was most at risk? Years? Or are they exaggerated TIs? The meticulously constructed storyline surrounding these superstars is still being impacted by the courtroom consequences. Share your thoughts on the awful trial and its conclusions with us. What is the real story behind these claims against Britney and Diddy?